I made a couple of these corner-to-corner triangles that I made by making one triangle and then building the other one off from the edge of the first one, so that the stripes were in this nice V shape. And I really like that effect. And I think it makes a very nice shawl. It was Shawl in the Ball. And I started it's corner to corner again, and I started the same way that I did the one in the photo. And when I got about to the same length, I lamented that with this yarn, it would be very difficult to try to recreate that because the colors would not match up properly for the stripes. Even with two skeins, it would require a bunch of cutting yarn and weaving in ends. And so I just went with starting it down here and increasing on each edge as you normally do with corner to corner, and continuing until I was about out of yarn, and finishing off, because this was the working edge and it's jagged because the corner to corner stitches are on an angle like that. So I evened it off with some stitches and then did a row of single crochet at the top. And it makes a nice shawl. But it set me to wondering if it would be possible to make a project, a shawl, and be able to do both. We'll go in just a bit. Okay. Do both triangles side to side at the same time. So I did a lot of playing and ripping out and redoing and ripping some more and redoing, and I finally came up with something that worked. However, this had this major defect here with the way I was forming the transition to the, when you went up one side and transitioned to the other side, it actually would have been this way. The way the transition is here, it leaves this great big gap that I didn't like. So I played some more and I came up with this one, which I had corrected that huge gap. Much, much better. More like the gaps that are in the rest of the project. So I was quite happy with that. But fortunate for you guys, all the videos I tried to do to demonstrate this have not worked and have gone off camera and all sorts of technical difficulties. So I got to thinking yesterday that, I should say, this one, I corrected that big gap by, instead of coming up here and using a double crochet like I did in the pink one, for this to crochet around here, I used a half double crochet, and that brought that in and made the gap much closer to what the others are. However, I started playing around again yesterday, and I came up with this technique where, here it would be this way, you come up here and you make this block for the top block for this side, and instead of going into this stitch, which was what I was doing on the other one, I just simply made another double crochet into the same block. And if you look at this, you'll see there's 1, 2, 3, 4 of them, plus the chain coming out of that block, from around that chain that is everything's being worked around. And you can see that that totally closes it up. It just worked beautifully. So that is the process I'm going to show you today. And is this going to show up? It's a little bit thinner than what I'm used to. As I brought up well, actually, what we can do is, here, we'll cut this one off. It's going to be a demo for later. And we'll use this nice red. Okay? So, okay. The caveat here is this is not a beginner video for teaching how to do corner to corner. This is assuming that you already know how. And if you don't, if you've had trouble with it, I would suggest finding a YouTube video that helps you get the idea. I've heard really good things about the video that Mikey on the Crochet Crowd has for corner to corner. And it is a beginner video, and it has helped several people that I know of. So this is assuming you already know how to do corner to corner. And the normal process is to chain 6 and then work your block. An alternative way is to chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and work the block then. And that is the way I choose to do it because it leaves a smaller gap over here. And you can do yours any way you want. And this process will work whichever way you make your blocks. So this is the beginning of a corner to corner. Block 1, row 1. Okay? In order to start a new row, you do your chain. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and I do 5 again, just so you're consistent all the way through. I also like to be consistent with how many loops I pick up when I do my double crochets here, so that it looks the same throughout. Okay, so I have done block 1 of row 2, and this is where people may get confused and maybe have problems and say they can't get the hang of it, is because they try to join here and it just simply does not work. It's not the way to do it. The way I like to think of it, this is the one I'm working with. This is where the working yarn is. So for me, it's much easier to just take row 1, block 1, and flip it over so it's to the back. And I'm working into between the chain and the first of the double crochets, and I do that slip stitch, and I chain up 2 for my, usually if you do the chain 5, you also chain up 2. If you're doing the 6, then you chain up 3, usually. Totally your choice. See if I can get more yarn here. There we go. Okay, so this is the normal start for rows 1 and 2 for any corner to corner project. Okay, what my goal is to get from here where the working yarn is, to get the working yarn down to here so that I can make block 1, row 1, and then do blocks 1 and 2 of the second row. So this is what I came up with that works. I tried multiple things. What I like the best so far, I've changed it since the first videos, is to do a fairly tight slip stitch into the side of this double crochet, just 2 of them, slip stitch into the gap between the 2 blocks, and then slip stitch into the leftover loop from block 1. So there's 2 loops there, and I slip stitch into each of them, and then I am down here where I need to be. And I start just like you do with any crochet project, with building out the new block. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I do my 3 double crochets. And here again, you've got this, and I will do a separate shorter video to show you why you can't just, oops, get that out of the way, why you can't just go like this. It's basically the same principle as why you can't do the other on the, when you did the first block of row 2. Okay? If it helps you to remember, you have to go back to the gap where you put the slip stitch in when you were slip stitching down. You have to connect there. So again, this is my working yarn, the front of the block, so it's easier for me to flip it. And I do my slip stitch into there, and I'll take that out so I can lay it down and point out. Okay, if this wasn't here and you were doing block 1, row 1, your next step would be to chain out 5 or 6 and do your next block, or block 1 of row 2. However, we already have a block here, so what I came up with that works the best for me is to chain 2, come up here and find any place you can to just slip stitch into there. You just need that chain to work into. And then I chain up 2. If you're doing 3, you can do 3. And then I just turn and come back and do my 3 double crochets around the chain. Now, I am thinking of doing a part 2, a separate video of why you can't do the things I'm telling you that are wrong, because there are a couple more that don't work. I tried them. So, but to make this shorter, I will, because this is how to do that. And you see, I just continue the same way you do for a normal corner to corner project down the side. Okay, now if you look at this, put some yarn here, there, so it won't pull. If you look at this, you can see that these on this side have their, we'll say the top of the stitches here, and the tops of the stitches on this side are going the other way. And that is essential. It does not work if you make it so that they're matching. It just does not. And I will probably make that other video to show you why it does not work. Okay, this is your setup. This is everything you need for the setup. These 2 rows, and you are set up for success as long as when you get up to the top of each one, and your ascent up the top, you remember to put that extra double crochet in. And it is a really good idea if you start having problems with it. Usually you don't, or I haven't anyway, had problems in doing the beginning, but I was working on a bigger project of using this and watching television at the same time. And I should have had a stitch marker in there. So, because that's another thing I'll show you that can go wrong. But I will wait and do that separate so that it's not confusing to anybody. Okay, so to continue, you just work it like it's a regular corner to corner project. Now, that should be 5 and 3 double crochets. I would go in closer, but every time I do that, I end up going off camera on every single video. So here again, you don't want to go here. You need to, I keep this facing up and I flip the rest of the project. Do my slip stitch, my chain up for the next block, and work my 3 double crochets and come up to the top and work, do my slip stitch, chain up and work my 3 double crochets. And remember not to just continue on down and connect here. That's one of the things that you can do wrong, and you can see it starts bowing. That's what I did on the other one. I had to rip out pretty much 2 rows. Okay, so I've done my 3 double crochets, so that's a whole block right there. But I'm going to go ahead and I put a 4th one in to that same space around the chain there. Come on. Okay, so I chain up 2 now, and I start working my way down. And there is 3 of them. Slip stitch. Okay, this is row 3 of the project. Does both sides. And you just keep repeating row 3 for the rest of the project, however many rows you want. Now, because the blocks are not identical on each side, and this is 2 blocks across, a shawl made this way benefits from having the edges evened out to make it like I did on the one in the photo, to even out the edges. Now, important tip, if you do the same process that I do and chain 2 or chain 5 to begin and chain 2 when you chain up for your blocks, you have to do a lot of fudging in order to get the stitches, because you've got 3 stitches to work into over here and 3 stitches to work into here, and you don't have 3 nice neat stitches to work into here and here. You really end up having to, it's harder. So if you know you're on your last row, my suggestion is to chain up 6, so you have 3 chains here, and to chain up, or chain 6 to start that block, and chain up 3 so that you have enough chains to work into easily. So I already did that on this little one here, so I will demonstrate with it because it is so much easier. So now you can do your the other tip. It is much better to go down a hook size. This one is a, oops, that's a 7. This was done with a 6.5. I grabbed the wrong hook. And this one is a 6.0. You just have to take my word for it. It's under there. Okay. So you can chain up 2 or 3, whatever you normally do for a, or do a standing double crochet, whatever you want for your first double of this row. And then you need a, let's do it from this side, and you need a double crochet there too. So you need 2 doubles, a half double, and a single crochet. Okay, now in order that there not be a gap, which is much more, this is fairly thick yarn, but with regular yarn or thinner yarn like this one is much, very strange yarn, but anyway, if you go into this stitch and do your double crochet, you end up with a gap, and it's not as noticeable with this particular yarn. It kind of fills in, but it is noticeable, and it's more noticeable with other yarns. So I go into this, I guess it's a slip stitch maybe, and do a double crochet. Then I do a double, a half double, and a single crochet. And I repeat that for every one of the blocks. Whoops. Let's do the right one there. Okay. And here's the last one on this side. Okay. I like to do a single, and I like to go right into the stitches because I'll be going into stitches over here, a half double, and a double crochet. And see how much easier that is than trying to fudge it into only 2 chains there. Okay, into this stitch, not down into the gap, but into the stitch, I like to do a treble crochet. And if you want, you can experiment with there we go, with doing 3 of them. To make it a little fuller there. I kind of like that. I might leave that. The other alternative would be to do into that space another double crochet, a treble, and then a double. I think that would look even better. But I'm going to leave what I have there because this is just a demo. And you may, this ends up more pointed, and I like that. It's better than the last demos I did. Okay, the other thing that you can do, you would do the same thing on both sides, okay? But one alternative, instead of the way I did it on the other side, is I've done my single crochet and then into okay, now because I need that chain, I'm going to do my slip stitch into the same stitch that I did the single crochet. Then I'm going to do my single for the edge point, my half double, and my 2 double crochets. Now, you will notice that this side, because it has more stitches, has this tendency to go up, to be more stretched out, which may or may not be a plus to you. However, it can be blocked out to make it go the way you want it to go. And I also suggest, if you do use this option of doing the extra slip stitches, that you go down another hook size from what you used in the main part of the project. So this gives you a fairly straight edge. This one gives you little scallops. But if you look at this top edge here, it has kind of a scalloped effect itself because of the way it's pulled in. Probably because I'm using the 2 chains instead of 3. So this is shorter and pulls in more. So it is totally up to you as far as which options you use. It's just things I've experimented with, and I'm still experimenting. my Facebook page is playing with yarn, and that's what I was doing when I decided to try to make a project this way and finish of it, and put it down like that there, and I will do a second video of what not to do, the pitfalls to avoid. And actually, I should be ending with the project. This is Lion Brand Mandala Baby, and kind of has maybe a seaside vibe with sand and water and clouds or sea foam, who knows. Anyway, this is the way it is looking. I did that process, started down here with the 2 setup rows, and then I'm building up and up. Actually, yeah, oh, here, I clipped it off to keep it from unraveling, but I'm working up this way now, and I think it's turning out very nicely. So I think it's going to make a very nice shawl. Here, maybe this way. It's prettier. There we go. It's a bit small now. There. So, happy crocheting. So happy crocheting!